Okay, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm trying to do it horizontal rather than vertical today. Um, this is Social Studies, Princeton High School, James Barbary. Uh, how are you guys doing? Um, Man, I hope we can get back to school before the end of this school year. Um, Now that you have read the first 5 chapters, oh, we're in America. Now that you have read the first 5 chapters and assimilated every word into the fiber of your being, or have randomly opened this page while using the bathroom, and are ready to learn about campaigns and elections. Ooh, you know what a campaign is, right? Yeah, that's what you do to get elected. And an election is, when people actually engage in the process of voting and determining who's going to win an office. In brief, campaigns and elections are democracy's vetting process. Vet means you approve, I guess. I don't know. Look it over. Democracy, I don't agree with that, but I'll go ahead with it. Democracy sounds good on paper, but how do we know it won't explode when we start it? Campaigns and elections are where the idealism and elegant design of the American experiment are set free to see if they can survive in the wild. Initially, the process of conducting campaigns and holding elections was conceived as a means to an end, the peaceful transfer of power, but more than 2 centuries of refinements have elevated the process to an end in itself. Indeed, it can be said campaigns and elections have become the most important part of the democratic cycle, easily crushing the overrated governance of the people. Today, running for office takes as much, if not more, time, energy, and resources as holding it. Think that's an inefficient perversion of our political system? Run for office and change it. So, it's a really good point. It's just saying that it's we put an awful lot of energy into campaigns and doing what needs to be done to convince people to elect us than we do into doing our job as elected officials. And and so it's a statement that that's something that maybe you need to go and change someday. Run for office, and and I don't know how we get it so that people are more concerned about doing a good job than they are about getting elected. Mm, these are a bunch of like stickers. I think they're pretty cool. Um, yeah, I mean, I have been guilty of maybe putting a political sticker on something at some time in my life. And maybe guilty is the wrong word. It's a way of showing support. It's a way of drumming up support. If you ever ran for office, um, or if you ever run for office, or when you run for office, you will probably order a bunch of stickers to get people to put them on their cars and bicycles and skateboards to vote for you. Um, Initially, the process of conducting campaigns and holding elections was conceived as a means to an end, the peaceful transfer of power. But more than 2 centuries of refinements have elevated the process. Okay, we already talked about that. Although the skills needed to woo voters are at times diametrically opposed to those necessary to govern them, the expensive and arduous process exists for a reason: to ensure that those who wish to govern are, if not the most qualified in our country has to offer, at least the ones who want it the most. So what it's saying is you got to be pretty crazy with want in order to win an elected office, because it takes so much to get elected. And the ones who want it so badly, they will endure any humiliation just to just to catch but a whiff of the aphrodisiac that is power. As Nixon famously said of Hubert Humphrey, his opponent in the 1968 presidential election, yes, my opponent is wise. Yes, he is honorable. But is he willing to... That's not true. Is he willing to kill anyone who stands in his way? Nixon's subsequent triumph was proof of the system's central tenet. Campaigns and elections are the process in which democracy separates the willing from the able and goes with the willing. So, what is it? We the willing, led by the unknowing, do the impossible? I don't think that has much relationship at all to the process, but it makes you think about it. So what they're saying is that being willing and is more important than being able. So your will, your want, is more important than your innateness, suitability for a job. I don't know about that. Running for office, the toughest job you'll never love. Do you like babies? How about veterans? Can you feign interest in old people and smile while touching them? Now, they're making fun of political campaigns, all right? So don't be offended by that. How are you with handshaking, backslapping, palm greasing? Now, handshaking in the day of the Corona-19, or COVID-19, maybe a little bit on the wayside. How do you feel about saying the same thing over and over again? Bus travel. Do you like being vilified on television? It's talking about if you're running for office. These are things you got to do. What about in print? Your spouse and children. Do they enjoy being followed around? Maybe having their backgrounds looked into? Chicken. Can you stomach copious quantities of it in a sterile auditorium-like environment? Finally, do you like all these things enough to put up with them every day for the remainder of your professional life? If you answered yes to every one of these questions, congratulations, you're ready to enter the political arena. And not a moment too soon. As our country has grown in size and stature, the scope of political campaigns has kept pace. The election cycle is fixed, but everything else around it has expanded, sometimes grotesquely. So here's the periodic table of elections. Let's see if I can get that close enough for you to see. Probably not. It's kind of cute. You could pause it, maybe study it, but I'll read it to you. I like it. I mean, it's not cute. It's Senate every 6 years. So a senator. Do you know who the Senate is? Right? They're in the legislature, the upper house, basically. The president and governors, they're elected every 4 years. So that's how long you get to stay in office if you get elected. The Imperial Grand Wizard. Now that is silly. They're probably talking about the Ku Klux Klan there, and I don't want to even put that in. That's every 3 years. The House of Representatives. That's the lower house. Every 2 years. The Prom King. Every year, right? You get a new prom king and queen? Okay. Employee of the month. Who knows? American Idol. Every week. Now, who do they leave out? Well, we got the House of Representatives. We got the President. We got the Senators. The Supreme Court Justices, those are lifetime appointments, so they don't have elections. All right. And governors are basically usually the same as the president, 4 years. And the senators, 6 years. And I know I already said that. Breaking down a $2,000 a plate fundraiser. So, can you imagine going and paying $2,000 to eat a meal? Well, some people do that to support political campaigns. It says political fundraisers take many forms, but the most common is the dinner. Supporters gather in a crowded auditorium, not nowadays, not with the COVID virus. The crowded auditorium or banquet hall to eat chicken, if they're lucky. The candidate will breeze in at the end to spend 5 minutes pumping hands and slapping backs before jetting off to another fundraiser. This experience costs $2,000. Where does the money go? Let's see. $8 for the actual plate. $6.43 for the food on the plate. $11 for a union kickback. I don't know what that's talking about. 37 cents for postage for return donation check from NAMBLA, whatever that is. $9 for mass mailing for next $2,000 a plate fundraiser. $12 for the first daughter legal defense fund. $8 for handsomely framed photo of donors with candidate, part of Illusions of Influence series. Number $7 for seating consultant to avoid mixing elite Buccaneer donors with mere rootin' tutors. $1 for local weatherman's appearance fee, earning event description star-studded. And $1,937 negative ad to run in critical swing state. So they're saying that all the money when people are running goes for, or a good percentage of it goes for, how would you say it, negative campaign ads. Have you ever seen a negative campaign ad? Of course you had. Almost every one of them are negative. Political conventions, a poor excuse for a party. Party conventions used to hold a place of prominence in American politics. Candidates were nominated and tickets formed over a dramatic week-long period full of suspense and backroom negotiations. Today, conventions feature balloons below a schedule for a typical day at the Democratic or National Republican convention. Now, this is going to be making fun of it, so we'll have a little fun with this. So, after all the primaries are held, there's going to be a Republican convention. I'm not sure. Is it going to be in Chicago? I'm not sure where. And then there's going to be a Democratic convention. And during these conventions, that basically each party's going to select who's going to be their candidate in the November general election. So here's the convention schedule. Wake up call, 7:15 a.m. They have prayer breakfast at 8 a.m. Then they have they talk about issues at 9 and 11 a.m. Young Delegate Roundtable, 11:30. The convention program will begin at 1 p.m. At 1:15, person with disease gives speech. At 2 o'clock, disabled person with small business gives speech. At 2:45, disabled person fights person with disease. 3:15. Well, I'm not going to go through all that. That's just silly. I thought it would be funny, but it's not. savvy candidates know that without a powerful fundraising organization, they will lose. But I have a prescription for what ails our country and can lead. Stop. You will lose. And raising money takes time. So plan on at least a year of nonstop solicitation to adequately compete. Don't worry, there will be plenty of time to come up with core beliefs in politics after you have been elected. Still, doubt the importance of money in political races? Billionaire Ross Perot received 19% of the presidential vote in 1992, despite being clinically insane. Well, he wasn't, I don't think he was insane, but he was an entertaining person. And with that, I would encourage you to maybe look up a YouTube video on Ross Perot, and that's ROSSPEROT, and you'll get an idea of an interesting political campaign that was run by a person who had a lot of money, and how it gives you an idea of how important, unfortunately, money is in the political process. Let's stop, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.